Welcome back. I'm about to go through one of my more recent rapid games in which the Stockfish evaluation said I had 5 blunders. I did win, but it took me 99 moves. I'm going to try to figure out what 4 of those blunders are. I already know what the last one is, and that's where we're going to start. Okay, here we are on move 57. My opponent has just moved here. I'm not exactly sure why, but I guess they couldn't think of anything else to do. So what I did was not a blunder here, is I promoted my pawn to a queen. And this promotion comes with check, which is the best kind of pawn promotion. In addition, it's a fork on this rook. And you can see that my opponent is in a little bit of time trouble with only 46 seconds left in a 10-minute game. And I have over 5 minutes left, which is pretty rare for me. My opponent had a very similar rating to mine. Usually when that happens, I'm the one that gets into time trouble because my opponents are more accustomed to blitz or bullet, or they're younger than me so they can move faster, and I'm the one in time trouble. And perhaps I got into the habit of being in time trouble because I went ahead and pre-moved this, thinking that my opponent would move out of check. I guess they only have a couple of options. I guess they have 3 options to move out of check. And that's what I thought they would do, and I pre-moved taking the rook. But they used the rook to block the check. So this was my last blunder of the game, because again, I had pre-moved that, not realizing that they could move the rook. So backing up to right there, if I had just taken this rook, or checked here, I would have had mate in 3. Actually, mate in 4 if I took the rook. It would have been even faster had I gone here, because my opponent would have only had a couple of legal moves remaining. But because I did this pre-move, now we're down to just -4, which is still a significant lead for me. But my opponent takes my queen, and now I have to struggle. So from move 59, we had to play 40 more moves. And I will just go through those really quickly. Not all of them were great, not all of them were horrible, but none of them were blunders at this point. It was a simple matter of being very careful here. And again, my opponent is in time trouble. But they don't have that many moves to choose from. They just have to keep moving their king to places that aren't in check. And I have to try to advance my pawn. And there's only so many ways I can do that, especially when they keep moving their king back in front of my pawn. Now, this part I was pretty proud of. I shouldn't have gotten to this part because I shouldn't have pre-moved when I had 5 minutes left and my opponent only had 46 seconds left. But that's in the past now, and I decided to just keep going. I clearly have an advantage. I have to be careful not to stalemate my opponent. I have to make sure they don't have any legal moves. Here I did the right thing by going to the left of my pawn, and I remembered from all my pawn study endgames that I don't want their king to be able to stay in front of my pawn. Without this knight, I don't know that I would have been able to do it. But the knight helped me in pushing their king out of the way, so I was able to control these squares and to keep their king from getting back in front. Now, here I think their best move actually was to get back in front. Actually, Stockfish says for them to just go back, but either way I would have been fine because, again, I have the extra piece that can force them out of there. And that's what happened here when they did get in the corner, is I decided to reroute my knight to bring it back around to cover the square that I needed to cover. There. Now they can't go back in the corner anymore. And I thought that was pretty genius. I was pretty proud of that, of the rerouting of the knight to cover the corner square. So the king can't get back in the corner again. The king has to go over there. And now I can put my king here. I don't care if they take the knight, because now my king covers these squares. And that came from all the endgame studies that I've been working on with pawn promotion, is how I figured that out. So anyway, there, of course, they did take the knight, but now there's no question that I'm going to promote this pawn. And because of my previous endgame studies, if you've seen some of my older videos, I learned how to checkmate with just the queen. So we did that. I perhaps didn't do it in the fastest, most perfect way possible, but that's how the game ended. There. Okay. Not sure what happened there. Okay. So, that was checkmate. But yeah, that all came back from my last blunder on move 58, which was when I pre-moved this. But Stockfish said I had 4 other blunders, so I'm just going to skip back into the game and see where those were. I'm actually going to scroll up the move list to the beginning, which is where I opened with the Caro-Kann, which I have been working on. And we went thusly. We're actually even here. Can I turn on the engine? Is the engine on? There it is, and it will show on screen just for you. Most of these moves were fine, and we're staying around even within just a few decimal places of zeros. Until about here, my opponent makes an inaccuracy, which gives me almost -1. It's 0.7, 0.8. And the reason is, I guess because I could just go ahead and challenge this bishop, but I'm not sure. Stockfish says I can just play h6, but wow, I'm getting bad at arrows. I think the bishop would have just gone back had I played h6. Stockfish says it would go back here or here, but I don't think so. So anyway, I'm not sure why this is such a big advantage. And so I played an inaccuracy in response to this. Oh, now it's saying rook c8 is my best move. Well, rooks belong on open files. I do get that. And I do know that it's an okay idea to ask that bishop where it's going, but if it moves back, my knight's still pinned. But, oh, you know what? But my knight's protected, so I guess it doesn't matter. And that's why maybe it's saying that my third best move is queen to b6. But I didn't go far enough. I went to queen to c7. I thought that was good. I'm connecting my rooks, which is part of my normal development. But that's inaccurate. And they took the knight, and I took back. And then this is my opponent's first mistake here, which gives me a -1 advantage. But it's -1 if I go to queen b6 or c4. Now, I do get that both of those are pointed at their d-pawn, but their d-pawn is guarded right now, so I'm not 100% sure what I'm supposed to be doing about the d-pawn, or why I'm supposed to be pointing at it. Okay, now I do get that b6 points at their b-pawn. How many? Didn't I have another color? There it is. Okay, sorry, I was trying to get the other color. Yeah, I get that going here would point at their b-pawn, but that's not. It says they would just move over, and I figured that. But anyway, so I don't understand why that is necessarily a mistake. I played that, which the idea of this, and it didn't lose much of my advantage. The idea of this is that they only have one legal move, and then I'm going to kind of slingshot back here and protect this knight. I don't know why I didn't just go there in the first place, but that's what I did. But anyway, so they basically have to move that knight because it's undefended. I guess they could protect it with a pawn, but they brought it back. And then I went out there, which lost some of my advantage, but I still have a slight advantage. Okay, where's my blunder? I'm here at move 15 now. I finally did play queen to b6. They brought their queen up to protect their knight. I brought this knight back. I don't remember exactly what my plan was there. We're making improving moves. Okay, they did that. This is a mistake again. And this time it's because I need to play queen to b5 or h6 to maintain that -2 or more advantage. Well, I didn't do those. I played queen to c6. Why I did that, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I saw the free pawn because now my rook is here. I don't know. But my opponent's first blunder was here when they went to protect that pawn. And I don't know why that's a blunder because it's clear that that's what I was aiming at. It says they should have just moved it up one. Okay, that would have protected it from the knight. The knight would have been protecting it on c3. Or it says queen to e3. I'm not sure what that would have done. Oh, but that would have been a blunder too. Okay, this was their third best move and this was their second best move, and both of those would have been blunders. Their only move that wasn't a blunder was pawn to c3. That I'm not sure about. But that was counted as a blunder. And it's counted as a blunder Oh, because I can play bishop to a3 now. But then wouldn't they just move the rook? It says they wouldn't. You can see Stockfish, right? It says if I played bishop to a3, threatening this rook, they would just move the pawn forward then. I don't know about that. I mean, I might have seen that, maybe, although diagonals are one of my weak points. But my first blunder of the game was not seeing that. It says I also would have kept -4 had I played h6, or if I had just put my queen on b5, which it keeps wanting me to do for some reason. Why does it want me to trade queens? We're even on material. It says they wouldn't trade queens, but I'm pretty sure that they would. I'm pretty sure that they would. And they wouldn't do it by waiting here to double their pawns. I'm pretty sure they would just take me on b5 and double my pawns. And I don't know why that would be good for me. I don't think it would be. So I'm probably not going to see that. But bishop to a3 I might see, because they've just moved that rook and I can immediately threaten it and my bishop would be safe there. And if they didn't move it, like Stockfish says, well, if I did that, they would just push this pawn, then I would win the rook for a bishop. So I think that would be good for me. But my blunder was not playing that. Okay, that's my first blunder. Well, I think the reason for this move is obvious, that I'm planning on advancing this pawn at some point. Because my bishop is pointed at it, I think I can drop my queen back and also point at this square. And they only have a pawn defending that right now, unless they drop their knight back. But they're not supposed to. Right now, they're supposed to play c4. And their second blunder was not playing that. It says they could play c3 or c4 and it wouldn't be a blunder, but any other move is a blunder. Remember how I just said they could drop this knight back to defend the e5 square? That's their third best move, but that would be counted as a blunder because it's -4. But instead they played g3. And why is that a blunder? I don't understand. Stockfish now says bishop to a3 once again. Just play bishop to a3. And I'm up -5. Okay, well, I went ahead with my plan. I played e5. And that can't, okay, that's my second blunder. If any of you understand why either of these last couple of moves were blunders, like, I get that I missed the possible best move twice. That's been my blunder 2 times in a row now, is not playing bishop to a3. I get that that's a good move, but I don't get why these other moves are bad. And is there a big problem with here? It says that they should take, and they did. Okay, they played their best move here. I'm still ahead by 1.6 or so. And now I'm supposed to take back. But I wanted to delay that just a second. I thought I can push this pawn with check. Because remember when I brought my bishop down there earlier and forced the king to move over? So I thought I can do this first, check, force them to move back, and then take this. Okay, that's a blunder. It counted that as my third blunder. And it says I definitely should have done this first. Anything else, this would have probably been counted as a mistake, and this was my third best move. Okay, now my opponent has an advantage. And they played their best move, which is to move up, not over. Move up to h2. Okay, now I take the pawn, right? Okay, see, it says I should take with my rook. Is slightly better, but both of them stay near equality. Okay, so we've seen 3 of my blunders, and I don't understand why any of the 3 of them are blunders. My opponent blundered here by taking this pawn. Now they're supposed to drop this knight back, but instead they took this pawn. Now that looked like... Okay, it's threatening my queen. If I take the knight, they're going to take it back, right? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out why I'm supposed to take this and why it's so bad to not take it. Anything but taking it as a blunder. Let's see, if I take it, it says that they will take back. Then I'll play h6. their knight then has nowhere to go. Okay, I get this one. I get it now. Because here, they went up a pawn, so my opponent's up a pawn. But this is not what happened in the game. But if I take now, there's pretty much no question that they have to take back. And then when I play h6, their knight has nowhere safe to go because their queen has just moved up, so their queen isn't protecting f3 anymore, so their knight can't get back there. And if it moves, I'll take it. They've blocked their own escape square with this h-pawn. If they stay here, I'll take it. If they go here, I will take it. And if they go here, I'll take it. So their best move now is to take this pawn, and I will take back. And so I would have gone up a piece. Okay, I get why that one's bad. But this is not an elementary level blunder here. This is at least an intermediate, if not close to advanced blunder, in my opinion. Being rated around 1300 on chess.com, slightly above in rapid. Yeah, this is at least intermediate, if not advanced. To be able to see that their knight has nowhere to go if I remove the defender of that square. Right now, if their knight moved there, it would be safe because their queen is guarding it. But I'm going to remove the defender of that square by trading my bishop for a knight here. And then threaten this knight because now it's undefended. It has no defended safe place to go. Wait, why wouldn't it go there? Oh, because my rook's covering that square too. Oh, and my knight's covering that square. Okay. But yeah, so it has nowhere to go. That's an advanced blunder, but I do understand it. So I think maybe I'm making progress. Okay. Well, what I played instead was my third best move, which was lining up with the bishop and getting out of the knight attack here. And they're supposed to play c3 now because I've still got my battery lined up going down through there. Or no, okay, now that my queen is off the diagonal, they can bring that knight back. But they didn't. They did that. And that was counted as a blunder for them. Wait, why is it not suggesting knight to c6 for me now? Oh, because now the knight can get out here. Oh, and it wouldn't have been able to earlier if my bishop had been... Okay. We see what happened, right? But that's a mistake for them because I need to... What? Wow, Stockfish wants me to put my bishop down there on b2. It is really insisting that I take control of this little tiny diagonal. You've seen that, right? Two of my blunders were not going to a3 earlier. And now it wants me to go to b2. It really wants me on this diagonal. Again, I think removing the defender of this pawn, because their queen doesn't really count as a defender of the pawn, right? Or does it? I mean, once the rook's gone, I would pick up a pawn for a queen and then have a rook on the 7th with being able to double fairly quickly. Okay. Yeah, so it's really insisting on that. My second best move is what I played, and so this was not counted as a blunder. So did we already get to all four of my early blunders? Let me scroll back up the move list. Yeah, okay, we've covered all 4 of my early blunders. Backing up, here it was not playing bishop to a3 or h6. I needed to play one of those 2 moves. Anything else was a blunder. Okay, but instead I played here, hoping to advance my e-pawn. Then my opponent blundered, and again I'm supposed to play bishop to a3 or h6. So everything else is a blunder. But I went ahead with my plan of breaking open the center. Their king is already less safe than mine, is kind of what I was looking at, because they've advanced both of these pawns and their pieces are kind of in disarray. I thought my pieces were better. I don't want to get too many confusing arrows on the board, but I thought my pieces were better positioned. My rook is on a semi-open file. This rook is about to be on a completely open file once these pawns are exchanged. My knight is within hopping distance here, so I thought breaking open the center was my best plan here, but that was a blunder. Okay, and then here my blunder was not taking that. soon enough. For some reason, taking it on the next turn was bad. And maybe I know why, because now this pawn is in the way, and Stockfish has been wanting my bishop over here the whole time. I know that there are a few people rated higher than me that watch this channel. If you guys have watched this video and made it this far in, please explain to me what is so important about this. Is it just because of the defense of this pawn? Is that the only thing? Or is there something else that I'm missing? To me, putting my bishop back here looks like I'm trapping my bishop. Not trapping, but b2 especially. Okay, I guess b2 is controlling a long diagonal. But wait, if I hadn't done that, if I had done this and had a bishop on b2, what if the rook just moved over, then what? Then I'm supposed to go to a3 and just leave it there? Like a permanent blockade to this pawn? Is that the idea? If you know, let me know. I would appreciate it. Okay, and then those were my first 3 blunders, and then my next blunder was here when I'm supposed to take, because that would remove the queen from protecting f3, and then I could play h6 to win that knight for a pawn. Okay, I don't feel too bad about those because all of those seemed like fairly advanced level blunders to me. And then once my opponent did that, I played my second best move here. My opponent played their best move, and it was in my interest to trade here, which I did. I figured that would, look at that. That is an ugly pawn structure. None of those pawns can get help from the A pawn, and none of them can get help from these 3 over here. Now my pawns are split, and my opponent is still a pawn ahead, but my 3 over here are together, and these 2 are still together, and my rooks are on completely open files. So I felt pretty good about this, and Stockfish says it's 1.5. Even though my opponent's up a pawn, I have a minus 1.5 advantage. Okay. Well, I'm not going to go through the whole rest of the game. You already saw my final blunder where I pre-moved taking the rook, but the rook wasn't there because they went to block the check with the... Oh, that's embarrassing. I'll show you that one more time to finish off this video because it was just so funny that here I promoted and had mate in 4, and they moved there, and I had mate in 3. But instead, I thought their rook would still be here, so I had already pre-moved that. That's pretty bad. The lesson there, that's the easiest lesson for me to learn, is when you have that much of a time advantage over somebody, don't pre-move, especially in a rapid game with 5-second increment. Just wait and see what they do. All right, well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.